Hi, I'm Rich Wurzbach, the inventor of the Grease Thief, and I'm going to show you now how to take a sample using the wind sampling kit that you see here. There's a couple of methods that you can utilize for this, and one is when we have an access hole within the machine like you see here. We've simulated with another piece of equipment, but we have an opening here that's about 3/4 of an inch pipe thread, or a 1-inch pipe thread with about 3/4 of an inch or so opening there that we can access. We start with the kit. This is the wind turbine sampling kit, and inside we'll remove one of the sleeves. We'll also come with instruction cards that'll show you how to take various samples that you might encounter as you try to sample wind turbines. I'm going to start with this scenario where we're essentially taking a sample from a threaded access point through the removal of a plug, a plate, what have you. We start with the sleeve. The sleeve is sealed. We open that up, open the Ziploc closure, and remove the components. Now we have a spatula, a plastic spatula that can be used to gather the grease, and in the second part I'll show you how you do that if you don't have an access point like we do here. Also in here you'll find the Grease Thief, and in this instance that's all we need to start. And so I'll place the spatula back inside and seal it up. The Grease Thief then gets loaded into the T-handle. And the T-handle in this starting position has a knob that's there, and there is a keyhole cutout. And I start by placing the handle of the Grease Thief into that keyhole cutout and slide forward the tube. This engages the thread. And by holding the Grease Thief steady, I spin the tube to load that into its capture position. Now it starts with a cap, protective cap that I'm going to remove. It just pulls right off, and I'll put that aside for when I'm done. Now as I move this collar back and forth, it moves the Grease Thief body forward while the piston stays in place. Always want to start with the piston in the end position so it blocks any grease from entering the Grease Thief until I get it to the spot that I want to start coring the sample. The position can be adjusted using these holes, which are about 1 centimeter apart. And by removing this knob, I can then reposition it to another spot that it will adjust how far into the machine does the Grease Thief go before the coring or the sampling process starts. So I put that in place, I lock that in place in this position. I make sure that my piston is flush with the end of the Grease Thief, and now I can start the sampling process. So we start by holding the collar in place and inserting the Grease Thief until we get that to bottom out. Now we move the collar forward to core the sample until we finish up right at the face of the rollers of the bearing. We hold that collar in place and pull back to remove the Grease Thief. We have fixed the yellow cap just securely enough to keep that in place, and then wipe the excess from the end of the tool and the outside of the body. Now we hold the Grease Thief and spin the threaded tube, which will remove that engagement so that we can remove the Grease Thief from the T-handle. Now it's ready to be placed into the shipping tube. To this we would attach the label or the barcode to identify the sample. With the label we're going to fill in the information about the sample, identifying it, the grease being used as the baseline, and the location. Or we enter the barcode into the navigator system and then add the appropriate input information. Second way to take a sample when we don't have the access opening like we showed in the previous exercise is to use the sleeve with the spatula and the syringe to gather that sample and then transfer it over to the grease thief. So I go back to my grease thief kit, I remove one of the sleeves, and I open it up. Got the spatula, and the syringe. Now I'm going to start by removing the plunger from the syringe, kind of holding it in one hand while the other hand has the spatula ready to go. Typically we start with the wide end of the spatula and use that to scrape away this kind of outer layer of grease that might have dirt, debris, moisture, and whatnot. We're more interested in the grease that's behind that, that is either still in the machine or just exiting the machine, as the best indication of the current condition of the grease and of the machine from a wear perspective. Now we'll use the other end of the spatula and get down in there to get some of that grease that was behind there. As you notice, as I take this sample, there's multiple colors coming out. That in and of itself is important information. It means that multiple greases have been used to lubricate this machine, and we certainly would want to investigate that. Now as I get enough in here, I probably need about this much to be able to fill the grease thief. And so I now take the piston, the plunger, and put it into the grease thief, into the syringe. I grab my grease thief, I remove the cap, and I pull the piston to about the midpoint, and then I'm going to firmly insert the tip of the syringe into the grease thief and press on there to make a seal while I push on the plunger, and that's going to fill the housing until it just starts to weep out through those little weep holes. Now if I remove the syringe at this point, there's going to be an air pocket where the tip of the syringe was. So I push on the syringe as I'm withdrawing it to completely fill the grease thief with our sample. Then I return to the cap, put the cap on there, and just push it on far enough to get it snugly engaged. I then remove the cap to my shipping container, enter that in there, close the lid, and then I'm going to add my label at this point, and I'm going to identify the information on the sample, or I can affix the barcode and go into the navigator system to scan the barcode and to enter the identifying information about this sample and this equipment.